Welcome to this early morning edition of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald-Quinn. We are on my YouTube channel live, 12:03 a.m., 14th of August, 2020. They just wrapped up this Portland Brooklyn Nets game, which I didn't think was going to be this close. But watching the Portland Trailblazers, you should have known because they have played some of the wildest basketball games in the bubble. By far, the most entertaining team in the bubble, and up until this point, they have the MVP of the bubble in one Dame Dollar Lillard, 42 and 12 tonight. Um, Made all the big plays down the stretch. Arguably, his biggest play was a steal he had late in the fourth quarter, and thankfully, Portland survives because to waste what Damian Lillard has been doing over the course of the last 3 or 4 games would have been a complete waste. And with all due respect to the Phoenix Suns, who ended the bubble 8-0 and should be looking forward to next season whenever it starts in terms of building their franchise. Devin Booker has a chance to be a All-Star. I'm happy for Monty Williams. Been through a lot the last couple of years, and of course, lost his wife in that tragic car accident. Um, so DeAndre Ayton is a very good player. Maybe he has an outside chance to be an All-Star someday, maybe. But we'll see what Phoenix does next year. But it's all about the playoffs now. You'll have the playing game with Portland and Memphis. Portland only, of course, has to win one of the 3 games. You expect that Portland. I don't see Portland losing twice to Memphis. To be honest with you, um, they just offensively they can score on anybody. Now I know that a lot of people. I shouldn't say a lot of people, but there are people besides Charles Barkley that are possibly picking them to take out the Lakers. Um, I'm not going to quite take it that far. I think that, listen, the Lakers have a lot of issues. They can't guard the perimeter. Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, and the Lakers have had trouble scoring against a team that is one of probably the best offensive team in the bubble. Maybe along with the Dallas Mavericks as well. So they're gonna get the Lakers when they play, and I'm kind of disrespecting Memphis, but I don't see Memphis beating Portland twice. They will give the Lakers all types of problems. Period. I don't like what I've been hearing out of LA, out of the bubble in regards to the Lakers, in terms of just handling the bubble. And LeBron was talking about it's been unusual, still trying to feel their way around the bubble, things of that nature. And, like, everybody has the same situation. Everybody's going through the same adjustments. No family, um, you know, no fans, and what have you. So the Lakers have been bad. Forget about what happened today. That game didn't mean anything. But even when have had their full squad, they have not played well. So you have Portland and Memphis. You will have, and matter of fact, we'll get back to the NBA because I have a few things to talk about with the NBA as far as what the playoffs are going to look like. Um, Russell Westbrook, a couple updates before we get to the college football. Russell Westbrook, of course, has a quad injury. He will not start the playoffs, which is a killer for Houston. Though, listen, Russell, even though he's about 30, 31, that type of injury is, a killer for him because he's a guy who was still built on being one of the most athletic players in the league. So who knows? Those injuries could be tricky. Who knows when he'll come back, and who knows how effective he will be when he does come back. Which again, that could be an opening for, maybe the Lakers won't have to work as hard to get to the Western Conference Finals, because they would play the winner of the not Portland, Houston, OKC matchup. But we'll get to more NBA later. In regards to college football, you have a situation where you will have no NCAA championships taking place in the fall. All 22 of those NCAA championships have been canceled for fall sports, including all the FCS championships. Now, the key part of this is it does not include the FBS in regards to these major conferences, the Power Five. You already know what the Pac-10 and Big 12 and Big 10 have done. The ACC, as of right now, and to be honest with you, the only thing I see shutting down those three conferences is a if this pandemic goes, if we get a second wave where everything just gets shut down, they are held. Those three conferences are hell bent on playing football. It is frankly sickening to watch coaches, commissioners, presidents make excuses on why they still should play football. And similar to our government, they will find doctors who agree with the fact that that they can play football in the fall. Period. You find enough doctors, you're gonna find somebody to. It's not just second, third. They're finding fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh opinions because I'm sure that's how many doctors you have to go through to find, or they hire their own doctors um, to say that it's okay to play football. As of right now, they're only testing these the athletes 3 times a week. We know that is not enough, and it's not even close. It should be anywhere from 5 to 6 times a week, and not even if not every day. Especially considering the fact that there is no strict bubble like the NBA has, or even the NHL has. But again, college football absolutely has no plan. We said this on previous podcasts. They have no plan, and they're going to go. These three conferences are going to try to attempt to go full speed ahead in regards to playing football in the fall, and it will be an absolute disaster. God forbid a student athlete, forget about catches corona, but God forbid somebody, dies. Because I've read articles with doctors who said that if they play football in the fall, NFL or college, that there's a risk that one of those guys, that player can die. We're talking about because of the size of these players, the proximity, um, all the side effects from coronavirus, strokes, blood clots, things of that nature. So again, God forbid that happens, but they are both the NFL and college football seemingly are going to put their players at risk. We've even heard a couple colleges even talking about having fans, which you know that's just the mentality they have right now. And I told you, even though I didn't think football was going to get played in the for college, the SEC would be the last one to hold out. Now it sounds like the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 are going to just stand their ground and attempt to play football. I found something curious out of this as well in the last couple of days. You had Trevor Lawrence speaking with the president um, with 45. Now I know 45 wants out of it. He wants to, excite his base, show that everything is back to normal. He know he has a number of southern states, in regards to Alabama, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, who absolutely love their football, Louisiana, and this is he's doing it strictly for the election purposes. I understand why he's doing it. We don't agree with it, but we understand the reasoning behind it. What I don't understand is the why Trevor Lawrence would even entertain a conversation with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump and Trevor Lawrence have no power in regards to college football being played. These athletes have zero power. They don't. If those guys would have sat out in the Pac-12, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered anyway because Pac-12, canceled football for the fall. But if you have guys sitting out, if Trevor Lawrence said this was on the other side of the coin and said I wanted to sit out because I was afraid of Corona. Um, Clemson and Dabo Sweeney would just play their backup quarterback, a top high school recruit. They're not going to start it, unless everybody in college football, all college football players said we're not playing, which is not going to happen. Um, I don't understand the reason. I don't understand why Trevor Lawrence saw the need for um, talking to Donald Trump. I don't get that. I was a little curious. And then after that meeting, he was not available to the media. So and again, if Trevor Lawrence votes for Donald Trump, I could care less about his political views. But I was just found it curious, from that standpoint. I just found it curious, why even entertain a conversation with one, Donald J. Trump. Um, Also, of course, you had going on in regards to a non-sports issue and what's been the news of the week, and kind of a historical announcement. Um, One, Joe Biden announced that Kamala Harris will be his roommate. Um, I think myself, it is the best choice. I think that she moves the needle, unlike any other candidates that he could have chosen. Um, I thought he had to choose a black woman. I didn't think Lance Bottoms or Stacey Abrams had enough experience. I didn't think Susan Rice or Val Demings moved the needle. Um, we have a gangster in the White House, and I'll steal this line from New Jack City when Mario Van Peebles, who was the supervising cop, was talking to Ice T. He said, "I need a New Jack cop to take down a New Jack gangster. So we need a New Jack politician to take down a New Jack gangster in the White House." And you can talk all you want about her record in regards to criminal reform and the justice in that situation, her locking black men up, which by the way, do your research on that, on those numbers, and do your research on certain cases. I've been hearing a lot of just bad information, especially in regards to her locking people up with because of marijuana use. That's not true, and it's complete bullshit. There's an article by a couple articles, by the way, that I recommend. Nikki Solis has an article in USA Today, and Nikki Solis was Kamala's adversary of Kamala, as far as she used to have battles in the courtroom. She's a public defendant. She had a opinion article a couple of days ago, August. I think it was today's the 14th. So I want to say it might have been Monday or Tuesday. I think the article came out the 10th. So that was Monday, and basically, just just read the article. I ain't want to give you everything that's said in the article. Just read the article. It kind of just gives you insight on someone who was actually in the courtroom with Kamala Harris and had a different perspective than what you're hearing a lot of people in terms of knocking a record. Also, there's an article by one Reese Colbert of Black Women Views from Medium, and it's called "Debunking the Lies, the Smears, and Distortions About Kamala Harris." Now, what I'm not telling you to like Kamala Harris. I'm just telling you to look at the entire body of work. Don't just follow internet bullshit, YouTube. Um, don't just follow. Don't just hook into any narrative about her record. Yeah, she has a long. She still can do some things better. She's still evolving, hopefully, as a politician, as a person, as we all should be evolving as people. And you, as a voter, if she is to get in, along with Joe Biden, should hold her accountable for promises that she's going to make over the course of the next 81 days or 80 days now. That's your job. That's our job as voters. Because let's not kid ourselves. She wants to be president. There's no doubt about it. She wants to be president. But job one is to get 45 out of office. That's job one. Then you can start making demands on Harris and Biden. So we'll see how it turns out. Uh, Democratic National Convention is next week. Following week, you'll have the Republican National Convention 24th. So, um, you know, should be a very interesting next 80 days. The election is close. It's close. I mean, 80 days is now. This summer has flown by, despite the pandemic. So it will be here before you know it. In regards to a couple other things before I get back to the NBA, you had Jerry Jones coming out for the first time since I don't know, maybe the end of, like the draft, and I don't know when the last time Jerry spoke. He was very quiet over the course of the George Floyd and the protests, and he hadn't spoken in seemingly months. Now there are people who have problems with Jerry Jones now speaking out. Like, where is he at? Um, why is he so quiet right now? I didn't give two shits about whether or not Jerry Jones was going to speak out. Jerry Jones is about his money. He doesn't give a shit about Black Lives Matters. He doesn't give a shit about social reform and social, systematic racism. Jerry Jones is about that coin. Um, we knew who Jerry Jones is based on the fact that you saw his stance when Kaepernick took a knee. You know, Jerry Jerry Jones is right is connected to one Donald Trump. We know what Jerry Jones stands. That's not a secret. So when he comes out, I believe yesterday or Wednesday, and talks about showing grace and taking in all this information. Like, I'm going to get information from ex players, current players. I'm getting information from ex presidents. I'm getting information from everybody. I want to make sure we do our due diligence. Like Jerry, the shit is not that complicated. Either you are against social injustice, or or you're not. Yeah, it's either for or you're for or against. It's really not that complicated. Like this is typical classic NFL from the standpoint of when something happens from a racial aspect, they'll say, well, we want to get this committee and and we do this research and start that committee, that committee. No, it's not. Forget all that bullshit. It's not like you don't have to start a million committees to investigate this, investigate that. No, either either allow players to kneel or there are things that can be done that have an immediate impact. Jerry Jones wants to try to please everybody because everybody includes his money and those sponsors and those fans who don't like to see players who don't want to see players kneeling. His customer base. They won't. More than likely there will not be fans in NFL stadiums this year. So listen, I didn't care to see Jerry Jones speak. It didn't matter. Speak talks about showing grace. Okay, sure. So it didn't matter. It didn't make one bit of difference if Jerry Jones spoke from. If Jerry Jones didn't speak until 2021, I could care less. To be honest with you. Um, so you had that going on as well. In regards to the NBA, again, Portland saved the NBA this week. It was not a good set of games. I told you this last, when did I do a show? Monday. I told you this past Monday that it could possibly be a slow week. Teams are going to start resting players, um, which they did. And, I don't want to say the quality of basketball. The excitement tempered down a bit, even for myself. I was all in the first week and the first week or so, first 8 or 9 days. This week I was kind of all right, flipping back and forth. I had other things to do as well that kind of took me away from some watching all the games. But you know it, I got to the point where it's like, all right, when do the playoffs start? So thankfully though, Damian Lillard saved the day, saved the NBA this week, um, and it will set up. All the matchups are set with the exception of course, who in regards to who the Lakers will play. Again, will be either Portland or Memphis. You have Houston, Oklahoma City, which imagine think about that. Chris Paul has a chance to get the last laugh. Think about it. James Harden, in essence, got Chris Paul traded. Chris Paul has the opportunity to get the last laugh. If Westbrook isn't healthy, if Westbrook is not Russell Westbrook, Oklahoma City has know a excellent chance to win that series. Even if Westbrook were healthy, I would give Oklahoma City a puncher's chance. I would favor Houston, but I would give Oklahoma City a puncher's chance. Now I might slightly favor OKC. So that should be a great series that could possibly go seven. Utah Denver. See what Utah Denver familiar with familiarity with those two teams being in the same division. Dallas and the Clippers. It will be, of course, the debut of one Luka Doncic, who we know is going to be an MVP in this league and will be challenging the Greek for best player in the world in a few years. Uh, Want to see what Luka does? Listen, they match up well against Dallas. They have wing defenders they can throw at Luka. Um, Dallas has to score, in the upwards of 125, 130 points. Dallas wants to go out there and play free, shoot a bunch of threes, up and down. You expect the Clippers to slow down the pace a little bit, try to, limit Dallas' three-point shooting and throw a lot of bodies at Luka. I'm looking forward to see how Luka plays and against the team that I think is favored to win the championship. As regards to the Western Conference, Milwaukee Orlando is like a walkover. It will be a walkover. That's a sweep. Miami and Indiana could be interesting. Jimmy Butler, T.J. Warren. T.J. Warren, Jimmy Butler put the clamps on T.J. Warren a couple nights ago. When I mean the clamps, he was at 12 points, shot like 36%, something like that. He had held him scoreless in the second half. Was like 1 for 4 for 2 points when Butler was guarding him. He absolutely put the clamps on him. Put the clamps on him. So that series could be interesting. I would favor Miami. Boston, Philadelphia. It's unfortunate that Philadelphia doesn't have their whole team. You expect Boston to make, even though Philadelphia has given Boston problems, and they have nobody that can do it and be, they can't beat Boston without Ben Simmons. Toronto, Brooklyn can give Toronto a run. I'm not one of them. I think Toronto is a championship caliber team. Brooklyn, though, listen, Brooklyn will be a threat next year if Kyrie and Kevin Durant can just, can get on the court and not just, get into, not just talk crazy and just do peculiar and just dumb shit. Those guys can actually go in and focus and play basketball and be healthy. That team is loaded. I mean, I was watching tonight. They play hard every game. They have a nice set of role players. Levert is a guy who can easily get 20 or 25 points on another team. Dinwiddie can score. I think they might move one of those two, Levert and or Dinwiddie. Probably Dinwiddie. Um, Joe Harris, of course, they're going to resign him. Um, they have a nice lot of young pieces. Kyrie Irving had absolutely no clue what he was talking about in terms of them. He said earlier in the season that they needed a couple more pieces, two or three more pieces. Like, no, you and Kevin Durant are the pieces. But Kevin Durant is worth like two pieces. So that team should be loaded next year. And again, they will fight tooth and nail with the Toronto Raptors, but the Raptors have too much experience for the Brooklyn Nets. Again, we talked earlier about Phoenix finishing 8-0. Um, it was all for naught as they were eliminated from the bubble. But Phoenix is, to me, Phoenix has always underachieved in the last couple of years. They shouldn't be as bad as they have been. There's talent on that team. I'm glad Monty Williams was able to get out some of the, to kind of right the ship, so to speak, for this season. Had them headed in the right direction. We'll see what transpires when they get back. Whenever next season starts. And the San Antonio Spurs had their 22-year playoff streak in tonight as they fell to the Utah Jazz. 22 years, 5 championships, one of the great streaks in four major sports without question. The level of consistency, and in those 22 years, they were title contenders. At least I would say 13 or 14 of those years, or maybe 15 or 16 of those years, they were title contenders. Went to 5 finals, went to 6 finals, only lost that heartbreaking series to Miami with the Ray Allen shot in 2013, redeemed themselves, of course, with their last championship in 2014. But they and again they fought tooth and nail. This was not a very good team this year. I thought that this would be the year finally that they would make the playoffs, but they went. Um, they died hard to say the least. Um, so they're going home. Very interesting to see what the future of that team looks like moving forward. Popovich, sounds like he will be back. Um, DeRozan, Aldridge, what happens with those two? So they are in a peculiar spot to say the least moving forward. So NBA playoffs Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, the playing game. The full playoffs will start the 17th, and right now I would say I would go chalk right now. Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, Toronto. I would go chalk right now in my gut in my heart of hearts. That's going to wrap it up for this abbreviated edition of the Real Deal podcast. I will see you Sunday with another episode of The Wire. Episode 8, Duck and Cover. Have a great Friday and rest of your weekend. I'm out.